This is the portfolio rubric guidance for pre-K standard CC-C6. Students use comparative language such as more than, less than, or equal to compare and describe collections of objects. When students are at levels 0 through 4, the teacher is assessing the student's ability to identify which group has more than, less than, or if the two groups are equal. The student is presented with two groups of objects. They either have two different amounts or the two groups have the same amount of objects. The teacher asks if they are the same number of objects. If the student answers no, then the teacher will ask the student to identify which group has more. Or the teacher could ask the student to identify which group has less. If the student answers yes, that both groups have the same number of objects, then the student has identified the groups are equal. The teacher will repeat the task with different amounts 3 times. One of the 3 times should be an equal group of objects. When you look at the suggested tasks for levels 0 through 4, there are 3 examples of how a teacher could assess a student to make sure they understand which group has more, less, or equal to. And again, the student may point to identify which group has more or which group has less. They do not verbally have to tell the teacher which group has more or less. When students are at levels 5 through 7, the teacher is assessing the student's ability to say if the group has more than, less than, or if the two groups are equal. The student is presented with two groups of objects that have different amounts, or the two groups have the same amount. The teacher points to a group, and this time the teacher is asking the student if the group has more than, less than, or equal to the other group. The student will verbally tell the teacher that the group has more than the other group, less than the other group, or is equal to the other group. The teacher will repeat this task with different amounts for 3 times. One of the 3 times should be an equal group of objects. Again, for levels 5 through 7, the student is verbally able to tell the teacher if the group has more than, less than, or is equal to the other group. When you look at the suggested task portions for levels 5 through 7, there are 3 examples that the teacher could use to assess if the student is able to say if a group is more than, less than, or equal to. For all levels 0 through 7, a video recording is the required method of evidence collection. A video recording must be of the student completing the tasks. In the video, we must be able to see the two groups that the student is looking at, and we must be able to see the student pointing to the groups if you're at levels 0 through 4, or we must be able to clearly hear the student tell which group is more than, less than, or if the two groups are equal. After you have assessed the student work, now it is time to score. A rubric is provided for your scoring. When presented with all 3 tasks, if a student is unable to complete any of the tasks, then the student work receives a level 0. If presented with 3 tasks and the student accurately completes none of the tasks, but when explicitly prompted, is able to point to a group that is larger or smaller, then the student will receive a level 1. When presented with all three tasks and the student accurately completes one of the tasks, then the student work receives a level 2. To receive a level 3, the student must accurately complete 2 of the tasks. And to receive a level 4, the student must accurately complete all 3 tasks. Remember, levels 0 through 4, the student may point to which group has more than, less than, or identify that they are the same amount. When a student is presented with questions that require a verbal response, and the student is able to accurately complete one of those tasks, then the student work receives a level 5. When presented with all the 3 tasks, the student accurately completes 2 of the tasks, then the student work is a level 6. If the student is able to verbally identify if the group is more than, less than, or equal to with all 3 tasks, then the student work receives a level 7. If the student is successful at completing levels 5, 6, or 7, then the teacher does not need to upload evidence of the student being successful at levels 0 through 4.